Hello, my name is Milo Bennett. I'm 23 years old and I live in a cramped one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of Denver, Colorado. It's nothing special. A rundown building with thin walls and a leaky faucet that I've fixed a dozen times myself. I drive an old Ford pickup truck that's seen better days, with rust spots creeping up the sides and a dashboard that rattles on every bump. My job? I clean grease traps for restaurants and apartment complexes. It's grimy work, the kind that leaves you smelling like stale oil and rotten food no matter how many showers you take. I show up early, haul out the hoses, suck out the sludge, and deal with whatever complaints come my way. People look down on me, really. They wrinkle their noses when I walk by or pretend not to see me at all. But it pays the bills, and in a city like this, that's something. I've been doing it for 2 years now, ever since I dropped out of community college. I thought I'd figure things out eventually, maybe get a certification in plumbing or HVAC, but for now, it's just day in, day out. No drama, no big dreams crashing down. Just me, my tools, and the quiet satisfaction of getting a job done right, even if no one notices. That Saturday started like any other. I woke up at dawn, threw on my worn coveralls, stained from countless jobs, and grabbed a quick coffee from the gas station down the block. The air was crisp, with that early fall bite that makes you wish you'd grabbed a thicker jacket. My boss texted me about a last-minute call at the Blue Fork, a fancy new restaurant downtown that catered to the upscale crowd. I'd heard about it. White tablecloths, overpriced steaks, the kind of place where tips flowed like wine, but only for the waitstaff. Grease traps in spots like that were always a nightmare, built up from weeks of neglect until someone finally complained about the smell. I loaded up my truck with the pump, hoses, and buckets and headed over. The drive took me through the quieter suburbs, past strip malls and chain stores, before hitting the busier streets near the city center. By the time I pulled into the back alley behind the restaurant, the sun was fully up, casting long shadows over the dumpsters and loading docks. I parked and hauled my gear inside through the service entrance. The kitchen was buzzing with prep work. Chefs chopping vegetables, the sizzle of pans on the stove, but they cleared a path when they saw me coming. No one wants to get too close to the guy handling the grease. I headed straight to the basement, a dim, concrete space with exposed pipes and that familiar dank smell. My coworker, an older guy named Pete, was already there, setting up the pump. We nodded at each other and got to work without much talk. I knelt down by the trap, a big metal pit filled with congealed fat and wastewater, and started threading the hose in. The suction kicked on with a low hum, pulling the muck out in thick globs. It was messy as always, splashes here and there, the stench hitting like a wave. But I was used to it. That's when I heard the voice from upstairs, sharp and echoing down the stairs. "Who left this filthy bucket up here? Don't you people have any sense?" Footsteps followed, quick and irritated. I glanced up just as she appeared at the bottom of the steps. Selena Harper, the new manager. I'd caught her name from the staff badge pinned to her crisp white blouse. She was in her late 30s, tall with sharp features, dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, and an expression that said she didn't tolerate nonsense. Her eyes scanned the room, landing on me as I wrestled with the hose. "What the hell are you doing? That water just splashed all over my shoes." It had a small splatter from when the hose jerked. I hadn't meant to, but the pipe was clogged worse than usual. I stood up quickly, wiping my hands on my pants. "Sorry, ma'am. It was an accident. I'm just trying to get this cleared out." But she wasn't having it. Her face flushed, arms crossed tight. "An accident? You guys come in here, make a mess, and expect us to clean up after you? I know your type. Sloppy work, just to get paid and go." The words stung, sharper than the grease smell. Pete shot me a sympathetic look but kept his head down. Upstairs, I could hear the kitchen staff murmuring, probably glad it wasn't them in the crossfire. I felt my cheeks burn, a mix of embarrassment and anger bubbling up, but I bit it back. Arguing wouldn't help. It never did with clients like this, so I just nodded. "Won't happen again." She huffed and turned to leave, but then stopped, patting her pockets. "Wait, where's the key to the storage room? I had it this morning." Panic crept into her voice. She spun around, eyes narrowing on us. "You two were down here first. Did you see it?" Pete shook his head, but she zeroed in on me. "You asked to borrow a key earlier for the sink, right? Where is it?" I had needed water to rinse my hands, but I'd given it back immediately. I returned it upstairs, ma'am, but doubt flashed in her eyes. She called up to the kitchen. Everyone, check for the storage key. It's got to be here somewhere. The search turned chaotic. Chefs rummaged through drawers, waitstaff poked around counters. Whispers started. An older cook muttering, "These cleanup guys are always scraping by. Wouldn't surprise me if—" I heard it all, standing there like a criminal. Selena came back down, flanked by a security guard. "We need to check your stuff, just to be sure." My stomach dropped. Pete protested quietly, but I waved him off. "Go ahead." They patted down my tool bag, my pockets, nothing. The humiliation burned, my hands shaking as I stood there, exposed in front of strangers. Finally, someone upstairs shouted, "Found it! Wedged behind the fridge. I must have dropped it this morning." Selena's face went pale. She glanced at me, mumbling, "Okay, false alarm. Sorry about that. Just be more careful next time." No real apology, just words to fill the silence. I packed up without a word, loaded my truck, and drove off. The rain had started by then, pattering on the windshield as I gripped the wheel tight. That look in her eyes, the suspicion, the disdain, it stuck with me. I'd dealt with rude clients before, but this felt personal, like a punch to the gut. As I pulled into my apartment lot, I told myself to shake it off. Tomorrow was another job, but deep down I couldn't stop replaying it. The week after that mess at the Blue Fork dragged on like any other. I buried myself in jobs across town, grease traps at a couple of fast food joints, a backed-up system in an old apartment building. The work kept my mind off things, or at least tried to, but every time I scrubbed my hands raw at the end of the day, Selena's face popped up. That sharp glare, the quick dismissal. I told myself it was just another bad client, nothing personal. People like me got used to it. The sideways looks, the assumptions. Still, it gnawed at me, a quiet bruise I couldn't shake. When Saturday rolled around again, I had to go back. The restaurant was on our regular rotation, and skipping it wasn't an option unless I wanted my boss breathing down my neck. I pulled up to the alley, the same spot as before, and unloaded my gear with Pete. The kitchen smelled of garlic and herbs this time, prepping for the lunch rush. I kept my head down, focusing on the trap. Same pit, same sludge. Pete grumbled as we worked. "Places like this, they treat us like dirt. Remember last week? That manager lady, total witch." I shrugged. "Yeah, well, we're just the help. What do you expect?" But inside, his words echoed my own resentment. We were invisible until something went wrong. Then we were suspects. Halfway through, I heard footsteps on the stairs again. My stomach tightened. Selena appeared, clipboard in hand, but she paused when she saw me. No glare this time, just a quick glance before she turned to check the pipes. I ignored her, pumping out the grease with extra force, the hose vibrating in my grip. When we finished and headed up, she was waiting by the service door. "Hey," she said, holding out a cold bottle of water from the fridge. "For the trouble last time. I was a bit short-tempered. Don't hold it against me." Her voice was softer, almost awkward, like she wasn't used to apologizing. I took the bottle, twisting the cap off slowly. "No big deal," I muttered, taking a sip. "Happens." But it didn't feel like no big deal. The suspicion from before still lingered, a sour taste under the cool water. As the days went on, I started noticing her more even when I didn't want to. During our next visit, I caught glimpses while we worked. Selena barking orders at a lazy line cook, but then quietly helping a waitress balance trays when no one was looking. She was tough, sure, demanding perfection from everyone, but fair. No favoritism, no shortcuts. One evening, after we'd packed up early, I lingered in the kitchen to help Pete load the truck. Selena was still there, alone at a back counter, poring over inventory sheets under the harsh fluorescent lights. She looked worn out, shoulders slumped, rubbing her temples like the weight of the place was pressing down. For a second, our eyes met through the doorway. She straightened up quickly, forcing a neutral expression, but I'd seen it. The fatigue, the isolation. I turned away, pretending I hadn't. The real shift came a couple of weeks later. We'd finished the trap, but the kitchen floor was slick from a spill. Someone had knocked over a pot of sauce. The chefs were rushing for the dinner service, so I grabbed a mop without thinking. "I'll get it," I said to no one in particular. As I scrubbed, my boot hit a wet patch and down I went. Flat on my back, mop flying. The room erupted in laughter, cooks doubling over, a dishwasher clapping. I lay there for a beat, stunned, then chuckled at myself, face heating up. That's when I heard her, a genuine light laugh from the corner. Selena leaning against the wall, covering her mouth but failing to hide the smile. It transformed her, eyes crinkling, shoulders shaking. Not mocking, just human, amused in a way that felt real, not forced. I pushed myself up, grinning sheepishly. Slippery floor, hazard of the job. She nodded, still smiling faintly. Watch your step next time. Wouldn't want to lose our best cleaner. It was the first kind word she'd thrown my way, casual but sincere. After that, the interactions changed. She'd nod when I arrived or say something small. Hot out there today, stay hydrated. But every time our eyes locked for too long, she'd glance away, busying herself with paperwork or barking at staff. It left me off balance, a mix of curiosity and confusion. Why the awkwardness, and why did I care? She was older, in charge, worlds apart from my grease-stained life. I told myself it was nothing, just professional politeness. But as I drove home after shifts, her laugh replayed in my head, softening the edges of that first awful day. Still, the gap between us, age, status, everything, felt too wide to cross. I wasn't about to fool myself into thinking otherwise. One stormy night, a few weeks later, the skies over Denver opened up like they'd been holding back for months. Thunder rumbled in the distance and rain hammered the streets, turning gutters into rivers and low spots into ponds. I was at home, sprawled on my couch with a microwaved dinner, flipping through channels on my old TV when my phone buzzed. It was my boss. Emergency call at the Blue Fork. Their grease trap had overflowed, flooding the kitchen with wastewater. You're closest, Milo. Get there now. Manager's freaking out. I groaned but grabbed my raincoat and keys. Jobs like this came with the territory, especially in bad weather when clogs hit hardest. The drive was a nightmare. Wipers slashing at sheets of water, headlights reflecting off flooded roads. By the time I pulled into the alley behind the restaurant, my truck's tires were sloshing through inches of standing water. I dashed inside through the back door, gear slung over my shoulder. The kitchen was chaos, staff mopping frantically, pots shoved aside, the air thick with the sour stench of backed-up grease and sewage. Water pooled on the tile floor, seeping toward the dining area. Selena was in the middle of it, phone pressed to her ear, barking orders at someone on the line. Her bun was coming loose, strands sticking to her damp forehead, and her blouse clung from the humidity. She looked up when I entered, relief flashing across her face for a split second before the stress took over again. Thank God you're here. The trap's completely blocked. Water's everywhere. We can't open tomorrow like this. Her voice cracked at the edges, more vulnerable than I'd ever heard. The staff hovered, unsure, but no one else stepped up. I nodded, dropping my bag. I've got it. Show me to the access point. We headed to the basement stairs, the water already trickling down like a mini waterfall. Pete wasn't available, stuck across town, so it was just me. The trap was worse than I'd imagined. Overflow bubbling up, the pit a swirling mess of fat, food scraps, and rainwater. I pulled on my gloves, rigged the pump, and waded in. The cold sludge soaked my boots instantly, the smell hitting like a punch, rotten eggs mixed with fryer oil. I threaded the hose deep, feeling for the clog, my arms elbow deep in the muck. Thunder boomed overhead, shaking the building, and the lights flickered. Upstairs I heard shouts as more water spread. Selena paced at the top of the stairs, calling out, "How bad is it? Can you fix it tonight?" I yelled back, voice echoing off the concrete. "Bad, but doable. Give me an hour." "It'll drain soon. Don't worry, Selena, we'll get it clean by morning." She came down halfway, gripping the railing, her face pale under the dim bulb. The staff had scattered, leaving her to handle the crisis alone. I worked steadily, the pump humming as it sucked out chunks, but the rain kept pouring in through some unseen leak. My muscles burned, rain dripping from my coat onto the floor. Selena watched from the steps, silent at first, then, "I don't know what we'd do without you. Everyone else just complains." Her words hung there, softer amid the noise. I glanced up, wiping sweat, or was it rain, from my eyes. "That's why I'm here. Jobs like this, someone has to step up." She nodded, but her shoulders trembled. The storm outside intensified, wind howling against the building. As I finally cleared the main blockage, the hose surging with a satisfying gurgle, Selena descended fully, perching on a dry crate nearby. Her hands twisted in her lap, knuckles white. This place, it's all on me. If we shut down even a day, the owners will blame me. And the staff? They look at me like I'm the enemy. Her voice broke, barely audible over the pump. I paused, hose in hand, and looked at her properly. No makeup armor now, just raw exhaustion. Hey, I said gently, it's okay to feel overwhelmed. Cry if you need to. Everyone hits a wall sometimes. I pulled a rag from my pocket, clean enough, though stained, and handed it to her. She took it, fingers brushing mine, and that's when the dam broke. Tears spilled down her cheeks, quiet at first, then in shaky sobs. I'm so tired, Milo. No one's ever just helped without expecting something. They all judge or leave when it gets hard. I sat on the edge of the trap, ignoring the mess, and listened. She poured it out. The pressure of running the restaurant alone, the loneliness of never having someone to lean on, how she'd avoided relationships because trust always shattered. I've been on my own so long, she whispered, dabbing her eyes with the rag. No family left, no one who sees past the tough act. I didn't interrupt, just nodded, letting her words fill the space. Thunder cracked again, but down here it felt distant. For the first time, I saw her not as the stern manager, but as a woman carrying too much, her strength a shield against the world. My heart ached in a way I hadn't expected, empathy mixed with something warmer, deeper. When she quieted, I said softly, "You've got this, Selena, and you're not alone tonight. I'm right here." She met my eyes, red-rimmed but grateful, and gave a small nod. "Thank you, really." We sat like that for a minute, the pump winding down as the water receded. The storm outside eased too, rain softening to a patter. I finished up packing my tools, but the air between us had shifted, less guarded, more real. Driving home through the clearing streets, puddles reflecting streetlights, my mind raced. The vulnerability she'd shown, the way she'd trusted me with her tears, it hit hard. I'd come to fix a trap, but something else had unclogged, a wall I'd built around my own feelings. Helping her wasn't just about the job anymore. I liked her, really liked her, and the realization scared me. She was older, successful, worlds away from my grease-covered life. But as I parked and trudged up to my apartment, soaked and exhausted, I couldn't deny it. For the first time, I wanted more than just to get by. The shift after that stormy night was subtle at first, like the way the city streets dried out slowly under the morning sun. Selena started treating me differently, not just polite nods, but actual conversations. A few days later, as I wrapped up another routine clean at the Blue Fork, she caught me by the service door. "Milo, got a minute after your shift?" "Coffee on me, there's a spot down the block." Her tone was casual, but her eyes held that same vulnerability from the basement, like she was testing the waters. I hesitated, wiping my hands on my coveralls, but nodded. "Sure, why not?" It was the first time we'd spoken outside of work, and as we walked to the small cafe, the air felt charged with unspoken things. We sat at a corner table, steam rising from our mugs, black for me, latte for her. At first it was small talk, the weather, the restaurant's busy season, but she steered it deeper. "You know, growing up wasn't easy for me," she said, stirring her drink absent-mindedly. "Parents gone early, had to fend for myself, worked 2 jobs through school, built everything from scratch. But it leaves you guarded, always feeling like you're too old for mistakes, too set in your ways for anything new." Her voice was steady, but I caught the flicker of doubt. I leaned back, surprised she'd open up like that. "I get it," I replied. "My job, it's not glamorous. People see the grease, the smell, and that's all I am to them. Makes you wonder if you're worth more than that. I've always felt not enough, like who'd want someone elbow deep in muck every day?" She looked at me then, really looked, her fingers tracing the rim of her cup. "You're more than that, Milo. The way you showed up that night, no complaints, just got it done. Not many people do that." The words hung between us, warm and unexpected. We talked for over an hour, the cafe emptying around us. She shared bits of her life, the independence she'd fought for, the quiet loneliness of nights alone in her apartment. I opened up about dropping out, the dead-end feeling of my routine, how I dreamed of starting my own small business one day but feared I'd never measure up. By the time we parted, the awkwardness from before had softened into something tentative, like the start of a bridge. But bridges aren't built without cracks. A week later, we met again, this time at a quiet diner after her shift. The conversation flowed easier, laughs slipping in as she teased me about my coffee order. Black and strong, like you on a job, she said with a grin. I felt a pull, that undeniable spark growing. Walking out, we ran into a group of her old friends at a nearby bar. They waved her over, all polished professionals in their late 30s, suits, manicured nails, easy confidence. Selena introduced me casually. This is Milo, he helps keep the restaurant running. But as we chatted briefly, I caught the whispers when her back turned. Selena's hanging with the maintenance guy now? What's that about? One woman smirked, glancing at my faded jeans and work boots. Selena's smile faltered, her posture stiffening. She laughed it off, but the evening ended abruptly. I should get home, she said, avoiding my eyes. That night, my phone lit up with her text. Tonight was fun, but maybe we shouldn't do this. I don't want people talking about you or us. It's complicated. The words hit like a cold splash. I stared at the screen, heart sinking. Complicated because of the age gap, my job, or just her fears mirroring mine? I typed back, if it's about what they think, screw them. But if you want space, I get it. No reply came. The next few days at work were tense. She kept interactions short, professional, her walls back up. I felt the sting of rejection, questioning if I'd misread everything. But deeper down it hurt because I cared. More than I'd admitted. The self-doubt crept in. Who was I kidding? A grease monkey chasing a manager like her? Still, I couldn't let it end like that. The following morning before my shift, I stopped at a hardware store and picked up a small keychain. A simple metal one shaped like a drain cover. Nothing fancy but symbolic. I attached a note. Sometimes all it takes is someone willing to lift the lid and see the mess underneath. I left it on her desk in a plain envelope, unsigned but obvious. My hands shook as I walked away. What if she thought it was creepy? Or worse, ignored it? The day dragged, my mind replaying every scenario. Late afternoon as I loaded the truck, my phone rang. It was her. Milo, that was thoughtful. Can we talk? After close? Her voice was soft, edged with emotion. We met in the empty parking lot, the neon sign flickering above us. She held the keychain, turning it over. It got to me. I've spent years hiding my flaws, thinking no one would stick around if they saw them. Tears welled up, but she blinked them back. And you, with your job, the whispers, I didn't want to drag you into my mess. I stepped closer. I'm already in messes every day. Yours? It's not a mess. It's real. If I'm not scared, why should you be? She searched my face, then whispered, if you're not backing down, neither am I. We stood there, the gap closing, not with a kiss or grand gesture, but with quiet understanding. For the first time, the barriers felt surmountable. From that night in the parking lot, things between Selena and me started to unfold in ways I never imagined. We didn't rush into labels or announcements. Instead, we carved out time for each other quietly, away from prying eyes at first. A casual dinner at a hole-in-the-wall Italian place downtown, where we shared pasta and stories about our wildest childhood dreams. Hers of traveling the world, mine of owning a little shop where I could fix things my way. We'd walk through Washington Park on weekends, the leaves crunching underfoot as fall deepened, talking about the simple things we wanted. A cozy home, lazy mornings with coffee, someone to share the load without judgment. She opened up more about her independence, how it had become both her strength and her cage. I told her about the quiet shame of my job, how it made me feel small sometimes, but how her seeing past it made me stand taller. Word got around eventually. Whispers in the kitchen at the Blue Fork. Selena and the grease guy, really. A cook joked once, loud enough for me to hear. Manager's slumming it now. Customers eyed us oddly if we grabbed lunch together nearby. Even my boss raised an eyebrow when I mentioned her in passing. But we shrugged it off. Let them talk, Selena said one evening, her hand in mine as we strolled under streetlights. We've got nothing to prove. It wasn't easy. Doubt crept in on bad days, reminders of our differences. Her polished office, my stained tools, her years of experience, my youth. But every time we'd circle back to that basement night, the trust we'd built in the muck. The turning point came during the restaurant's annual staff appreciation dinner, a low-key event in the back room after close. Tables pushed together, string lights hung haphazardly, plates of leftover appetizers passed around. It was meant to thank everyone, the cooks, waitstaff, even us cleaners. I showed up in my best shirt, feeling out of place among the chatter. Selena hosted, her usual poise in place as she thanked the team. Then, unexpectedly, she turned to me. "And a special shout out to Milo," she said, her voice steady but warm. "He doesn't just clean up our messes, he reminds us that everyone deserves respect, no matter the job or the years behind them. Thanks to him, I've learned that love isn't about fitting a mold. It's about showing up, flaws and all." The room went quiet, then erupted in applause. A few faces looked shocked, whispers rippling through, but most smiled, clapping harder. I stood, heart pounding, and reached for her hand across the table. She took it, squeezing tight, our first public moment. No drama, no speeches, just us, real and unhidden. After that, the barriers crumbled for good. We didn't care about the stares anymore. Selena taught me to laugh at the gossip, to focus on what mattered. The way she'd text me mid-shift with a silly emoji, or how I'd surprise her with takeout after a long day. Our worlds blended, her showing me how to navigate spreadsheets for my business ideas, me teaching her to change a flat tire on her car. The age gap? It faded into the background, just another detail like her love for jazz records or my habit of collecting old tools. Happiness, I realized, wasn't about erasing differences. It was about embracing them, turning what others saw as obstacles into the foundation of something strong. One crisp evening, as winter nipped at the air, we sat on a bench by Washington Park's lake. The water rippled under the fading light, ducks gliding across like nothing in the world mattered. Selena leaned against me, her head on my shoulder. "Thank you," she murmured, "for lifting the lid on my heart's own grease trap. I was stuck, but you saw through the mess." I chuckled softly, pulling her closer. "And thank you for seeing me, really seeing me, when no one else did." We sat there, hands intertwined, watching the sun dip below the horizon. No grand plans, no rush toward rings or vows, just the quiet certainty that this was our beginning, built on honesty and grit. In the months that followed, life settled into a rhythm that felt right. We talked about the future in whispers. Maybe a small house on the outskirts, a backyard where I could tinker and she could plant flowers. The whispers at work died down, replaced by nods of acceptance. My confidence grew. I even started night classes for that certification, Selena cheering me on every step. She softened too, letting her guard down more, her laughs coming easier. We weren't perfect. Arguments flared over silly things like schedules or stubborn pride. But we faced them head on, no running, no walls. That was the real win. Daring to be vulnerable, to love without apology. Looking back, it all started with that disastrous first day, the splash, the lost key, the suspicion. What could have been the end became our spark. Selena showed me that every gap, age, job, past, could be bridged with a little courage. And in return, I gave her the space to breathe, to be seen. Happiness isn't flashy, it's the quiet handhold in the storm, the shared glance across a crowded room. As we walked home that night, her arm linked in mine, I knew we'd found ours.